Many countries around the world have made significant strides towards achieving the Millennium Development Goals. Progress in poverty reduction was particularly strong. In the decade beginning in 2002, the proportion of the world's population living below the poverty line dropped by half to just 13% globally. But significant challenges remain. In 2015, the Millennium Development Goals were followed by the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2030. Over 1 billion people still live in extreme poverty, and countries still reflect high levels of inequality that have adverse effects on inclusive, sustainable growth and social stability. The new Agenda 2030 envisions a world without extreme poverty, where inequality is falling and climate change is being addressed. The cost of implementing the Sustainable Development Goals is, however, estimated in the trillions of dollars. In order to achieve these goals, countries will need to mobilise significant additional resources from multiple sources: public and private, domestic and international. In response, UNDP is supporting countries in carrying out development finance assessments, or DFAs. Because the finance landscape is very different from one country to the next, the DFA focuses on a particular country's situation and context. Bangladesh is one of 12 countries globally to have proactively conducted a development finance assessment.
It was a mapping exercise just to find out the different financing sources that are available, and what we really need to do in terms of reforming policies and institutions to get the optimum benefits out of these all sources.
The results of the DFA in Bangladesh highlighted that significant institutional reforms and greater policy coherence are required. The assessment also highlights the challenge of aligning private sector interests with national development priorities.
In fact, this has gone into supporting a financing strategy for the 7th five-year plan, which we are currently implementing. But we are also planning to really use this as a sort of a basis to further come up with an integrated financing framework for the Agenda 2030.
In fact, discussions on the global framework for financing development took place at the 3rd International Conference on Financing for Development in Ethiopia in 2015. The outcome which emerged, the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, calls for countries to work towards establishing integrated national financing frameworks, or INFFs, to help them achieve development targets. An INFF is seen as the set of institutional arrangements which a country needs to have in place in order to manage finance to achieve their national development goals and the SDGs. 6 core building blocks for the integrated national financing framework have since been identified. Leadership that facilitates institutional coherence, a clear vision for results, an overarching strategic financing policy, financing policies for specific flows, system-wide monitoring and evaluation, and an enabling environment for accountability and dialogue. The role of international finance and development cooperation is one important aspect to consider in the context of an integrated national financing framework.
There's all these different flows and streams of financing that often are in parallel and not really sort of integrated. And so we want the development partners to sort of attempt to harmonize and sort of try and sort of coordinate the assistance to the country so we don't have to deal with multiple different flows of financing.
Lao People's Democratic Republic is one country which is considering the role of development cooperation as they establish their INFF. In order to take forward an INFF, you need a political and technical dialogue forum. The Development Finance Assessment highlighted that the country expects to receive 76% of their development finance from the private sector over the next 5 years. Recognising this changing context for finance and cooperation, the country's dialogue forum has been evolving in recent years. Making the link between finance and national development results by establishing integrated national financing frameworks requires commitment at all levels. Decision makers are already taking action on this, as it's only by taking an integrated approach to finance that countries can first find and then channel sufficient resources to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals.
All have to really share this responsibility, otherwise the agenda is so big, so complex. No one single authority, government alone cannot really be able to do it.
Linking finance and results will also require bringing in new partners at the country level. Given the complexity, countries also need to share their experiences and learn from each other, and regional platforms have an important part to play in this.
You can have better results and better performance from one country to other when countries are able to learn from each other. And therefore, regional platforms are important, where countries are able to exchange experiences and where their platforms are able to provide better capacity development or even broker partnerships.
It's only by taking an integrated financial approach that the countries of Asia Pacific can first find and then channel sufficient resources to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals and transform our world by 2030.